All right, everybody, thanks for coming along today. My name is Jeff McQueen. I'm one of the founders and the CEO here at Accelo, and I've got Dina with me, our product manager.
Good morning or afternoon, everybody.
Thanks so much for coming along. We've got some exciting stuff to show you today. We know that the holidays are just around the corner, and we wanted to give all of our users a bit of a Christmas present. So what we're going to do today is run through a sneak peek at our utilization and profitability dashboards. These are some new dashboards that we're introducing into Accelo for all of our premium accounts because they use the same sort of technology and infrastructure as things like our team scheduling and other aspects. So yeah, looking forward to taking you through them. If you've got any questions, please use the Q&A feature in the webinar system here to ask your questions, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. It may be just from a flow perspective that we should continue along and sort of deal with them all at the end. But by all means, please ask them, and if we can jump onto them straight away. All right, let's get going. So our agenda today is going to be in a few parts. So first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the profitability and utilization reports and dashboards, in why we're building them and what the background is. We'll then actually go through and give you a live demo of real code running the utilization dashboard as it stands right now. We're still doing some polishing and there's still more testing to be done. Then I'll go through and talk you through the profitability dashboard, which is a little bit of a screenshot you can see here on the right. That one's not going to be a live demo yet because that dashboard's coming second. Then we're going to jump across and have a look at a bonus sneak peek of some stuff that we're working on right now, which won't be sort of going out the next couple of weeks, but is more a case of stuff going out early in the new year, sort of targeting January as our big month for working on this bonus piece. And then we'll also talk about the release timetable and how things look there. Last of all, we'll have some time set aside for Q&A. So feel free, as I said, to use the question and answers feature in the webinar interface here to share your questions, and we'll be sure to cover those when we get to the end. All right, so in terms of a bit of background, fundamentally, whether you're an architect, engineer, accountant, designer, consultant, there's some fundamental commonalities to almost all professional service businesses. Fundamentally, we work as business people with our teams of skilled, capable people to do work for our clients. And that work that we do for our clients, we then bill our clients for, and in return, we obviously need to hire and pay the salaries of our staff members, our team members. And the financial success of the business is really determined by, really two factors. One is the difference between what you spend on an hourly basis or a monthly basis, whatever the time scale that makes the most sense to you is, on hiring your people and their associated on costs, whether it be healthcare, insurances, or other things like that. So there's a cost dimension, and then the revenue dimension is the hourly rate that you charge out to your clients for the work that your folks do. And while you might be the kind of business that does fixed price projects rather than the classic, what's our hourly rate and multiply that by the hours spent, we've still got that fundamental piece that whether it's fixed rate or hourly, there's still time that your team members need to spend to do that work that you're billing your customer for. And so there is that difference between whatever you're charging for the work you do and then whatever you're paying out in terms of your labor costs predominantly for getting the work done. The other function of financial success is how busy your people are at doing that revenue generating work. What's their utilization look like? And so by understanding those two variables, you can have a much better handle on how your business is tracking without having to wait until the end of the month or the end of the quarter for the bookkeeper or the accountant to do their job and give you a set of income statements or profit and loss reports. And of course, it's when you're working on your projects, it's when you're looking at how busy your team are in a forecasting sense that you've actually got some ability to influence the financial success and health of your business. If you just wait until the scoreboard comes back in from the accounting package, it's kind of too late and you're just going to have whatever you got. So from a business point of view, having insights into this utilization and profitability in real time and even forecasting utilization is incredibly valuable. And from talking to our users, it's one of the things that they're really, really excited about with a product like Accelo, because it's one of the few products out there that's really touching all of the dimensions of their business and all of the work that they do for their clients. And so they can actually see these insights. But we haven't really made it easy to get this information out of Accelo up until now. Totally our fault. It's just one of the things that, the team had been working on things leading up to this point. If you don't have a great way to get data in, then you don't trust the reports that come out. And so we spent a lot of time on things like our timesheet screens and automation and other reports. Now we're excited to be able to bring it all together for you into a couple of really powerful dashboards that you can drive in real time. All right, so let's jump into the demo here of the utilization dashboard. So we'll come across, this is our new utilization dashboard. We can see that, I'll take you through a bit of a tour of it. So the first thing that happens when you're looking at utilization is you want to be thinking about who the staff members are, who you're actually measuring the utilization of. And so you can find individual people and just start typing their names in here, and it'll go across your staff members and find the folks that you want to add to the list. And if they're already added, you can just have a little check. The little checkbox here tells you that they're already part of your report. You can also choose to go and get all people and filter them based on details like their access level, divisions, and skills. So if you wanted to go and see what all of your designers are up to, you could then actually just much more easily go and snap that information into place. Now, when it comes to looking at the utilization, we then come down and we can see, okay, well, what do we actually want to be measuring here? And so we can see that we've got utilization with a couple of different options. We've got, for example, here we're looking at it with 10 days worth of utilization time before a particular date. Or alternatively, we can go and snap a very quick date range like last week or last month, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this here and show you the last 10 weeks. Now, admittedly, this is all running on staging gear, so it's not as fast as it could be, but as you can see, it's pretty quickly there, snapped around and changed the actual utilization amounts. And we can see how busy all of our team members have been collectively that are featured in this report. And I'll scroll down a little bit. You can see this report's made up of 4 of us, myself, Alison, Malin, and Sean. So looking at the chart, scrolling back up, we can see that the system has identified that us 4 people tap out or max out at 140 hours a week of combined time that we should be working. And those hours, that time, is based on each individual user's settings on both their work week settings here, so which days of the week do they work, and also their vacation calendar. So if they've got some time off, they can put that into the vacation calendar. And that, across all of the users, then goes into calculating how many hours the system thinks those users can be working at any given week. We also take into account things like public holidays. So in the States here, we've just had Thanksgiving not long ago. Obviously, there's a bunch more holidays around the corner. So that will affect here the number of, the size of the bars, if you like, in the total period. Now, looking at the graphs themselves, we've got a couple of different colors recognizing or representing the different types of hours. So in green here, we've got billable time. Then we've also got non-billable time. So that's the hours that have been explicitly logged by somebody in the product. We've then got a series of estimated time entries. So we've got scheduled time. That's the meetings that live in, let's say, your calendar, or you put inside of Accelo as a meeting between, sort of 10 and 11 a.m. with a client. Maybe it was a call instead of a face-to-face meeting, but something that got scheduled with a start and finish time and synchronizes with your calendar. The other option that's calendar related is these guys here in the kind of ready color, in more of this magenta. And we can see here that this is the external entries. This is the things that live in your calendar that don't link back to something in Accelo. This is where we're saying, all right, we're actually talking here about maybe it's an internal staff meeting, maybe it's travel time, things that maybe aren't linked back to a client meeting or something like that. And of course, you can convert scheduled and external entries into billable and non-billable time through the timesheet screen. But this is great because it allows you to see them instantly without users having to make a next step. We've also got the committed option here. So we don't see any of those on screen for committed and auto right now, but as you're looking into the future, you're able to see where task time has been allocated for different staff members and assigned. And so the committed stuff is where you drag it around on team scheduling and drop it into somebody's particular day that they're going to work for 2 hours on this task. And the auto ones are where the Accelo system's smart enough to say, okay, you've got 5 hours of work on this task. It's due in 3 days' time. So we're going to spread that out and put an hour and 20 minutes down for each day for the next 3 days. And we're going to automatically level out your work so you can see what's going on there. Scrolling down, what you're able to do if you're obviously curious is you can click and say, you know what, I want to find out what happened in this particular period. And one of the things we're still working on is, sort of layout wise is these, the date lines matched together. So we can see during this period here that we've got, sort of my schedule here. I think for the purpose of the demo, I reduced the hours that I was working each week. It's definitely not the case. So you can see, recognition of those hours and how much time people have spent versus how much time they should have spent, in inverted commas. And then you can click on the details here to go out to the timesheet report. Now, if you wanted to change this and say, look, I don't want to see Alison's list anymore. I just want to see, these other 3 users. You can remove that person and then you fairly quickly see the bar charts evolve or change. And let's say that I wanted to go through and not look at 10 weeks, but I wanted to look at 5 weeks instead. I can quickly make that change and then the system will automatically, oh, I forgot to hit the save button, search. I can make that change and the system will then automatically change the shape and structure of those bar charts. And that's really, a pretty quick result in terms of how that plays out. If I don't want to look at the external guys, for example, because I think, these are a whole lot of internal calendar things that don't factor. I'm never going to be able to, see those as profitable utilization. You can tick these boxes and take them out of contention. And anytime you take things out of contention, the gray bar here, which is the unutilized time, expands and grows. And so as I turn them back on, you can see that we eat into the unutilized time further. All right, so that's the main features of the utilization side of things. And as you can imagine, being able to come in here and pick groups of staff members and then see how utilized people are, including being able to break it down by, days, not weeks, and basically turn to your colleagues and say, hey, Tom, what's going on? Why have you got very few hours logged here? You've only got, 8% utilization or 27%. This isn't good enough. Being able to, have those kinds of conversations is very helpful. All right, let's go back to the deck. So that's our utilization dashboard. The next one that we're working on, and the team are actually a fair way down this, but they wanted to get utilization out the door for you before Santa came down the chimney. So we're going to ship that first, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. But this is a profitability dashboard. And the way this dashboard works is relatively similar. You're able to choose who you want to examine the profitability of. You can choose what you want the date range to be and the number of columns to show. And then you're able to see both the billable or the revenue side of things here in the blue line, and then the cost in the red line here. And you can also narrow it down based on just, say, projects or just based on tickets, for example. And so what happens is after you choose what your inputs are and you hit go, you'll then be able to see a list of all of the, in this case, we're looking by week, each week how profitable the business is. And what's really important is you're able to toggle what type of cost you want to look at. So you can either look at the cost, which is the time that people logged into the system. So if they logged, 5 hours in one day, then you could use that as your calculation and multiply by whatever their hourly rate of cost is. And that can be a representation of their cost. So you can compare that to your revenue and see what your profitability is. Or you can toggle it, and the one we're showing here is the total time. So this isn't just log time, this is all of the time that we used. Okay, on Monday you're supposed to work 8 hours, and on Tuesday you're supposed to work 8 hours, and so on and so forth. So the idea behind this is that you're able to get a sense of whether or not you're talking about the time that, sort of you've actually been paying for your folks to be working, or the time that they've been logging, depending on which one it is. And then, of course, in the same sense, you can click on any of the columns here and, oops, I do this every time. You can click on the columns here and you can scroll down and see in a table view here, the revenue and the costs and the profit margins represented by each of those folks over time. All right, so that's the utilization and then the profitability side of things. Before we get into the timetable for release, though, I wanted to give you another bonus sneak peek. This is something that we're working on for really it's an early 2016 project, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek because I know it speaks to a lot of the frustrations that users have around billing. So we're actually working at the moment on a pretty major upgrade to invoicing. How you bill your clients for the work that you do for them is a really important, critical function, but it's often a miserable part of business. It's paperwork, it's often painful, and frankly, no one became an awesome architect, engineer, designer, accountant, consultant, so they could, sit down and go through a whole bunch of the timesheets and other sources of information to generate your invoices. Now, Accelo makes things a lot easier than things used to be when it comes to billing, but there's still a number of limitations and frustrations, including things like only being able to invoice for one project at a time. So it means if you're doing 3 projects for one important client over the course of a month, they have to get 3 separate invoices. You've got to remember to go through and create all 3 separate invoices and not forget anything, which is bad for you, and it's not great for them because it means they've got to then get 3 separate invoices approved. Another aspect is the difficulty with grouping together tickets and issues. So while you can group them together on a single bill of all of the tickets or issues, you can't also bring into that bill all of the projects and retainers that have happened through the course of that month for that client. At the moment, you also can't include rates and quantities on invoices, and the retainer invoicing piece is kind of clunky, and it's hard to give your clients a report of the work that you've done for them. So the good news is that the team are working at the moment on overcoming all of these limitations. And where we're starting, or I guess the most visual thing to see, since a lot of this is under the hood stuff, is a whole new interface for your regular, let's say, monthly billing. It could be weekly, it could be quarterly, whatever the cycle that makes sense for your business. But the idea is to have a single place you can go to do all of your billing for that work that you've done for customers, but you haven't set them an invoice for yet. One thing to also emphasize here as we look at these next couple of screens is that if you're somebody who continues to do, per project billing, the good news is you'll still be able to do that. We're not taking anything away. This is just improvements to streamline the experience. Sorry about that, everyone. Just network dropped out for us there. We can't even blame the amazing storms rolling through at the moment. Okay, so let's look at some screens. This is going to be our new screen. This is just a mock-up, so things will probably change, but we're a reasonable way down the track here of how this screen will look for your invoice creation. So you'll be able to, the bit that we're not showing here is how you've got a list of the companies that you could create invoices for. You'll be able to filter that by getting just the work that hasn't been completed or that was completed before a certain date, so you can do the previous month's billing really easily. And then what you're able to do is go through and see a list of the issues and the projects and retainers that you want to generate the invoices for. You can choose for things like projects to invoice for all of the remaining budget, or just a percentage of the budget, or just the time and materials work that's been done and approved, or maybe it's all of the work, not just the approved stuff. You can choose how much detail you want to have on the invoice, whether it be a single line item for the whole project or grouped by milestone. You can choose whether you want to include materials and expenses in the invoice. You can even then sort of see what the amounts are here and be able to adjust those up or down. Further down the screen here, and I'll sort of imagine I'm scrolling down for you, the retainers, there's prepaid. There's also the prepaid where a customer's paying for X dollars or hours a month, and then they're not for example, they use more time, so you can bill them for the excess. And then there's also the ability to bill for post-paid work, so the historical things you've billed for. And then down towards the bottom of the screen here will be a summary area which shows you who's going to get which bills, allow you to put in some notes, preview and customize those potentially, and then create and send those invoices. And with the create and send being separate here, the idea is that, for example, one client you might choose to send a lot of detail with that invoice, whereas another client just needs a nice simple one-pager. All right, so in terms of timing, our release timetable, we're aiming to get the utilization dashboard into your hands next Tuesday, December 22nd. we're looking to get the profitability dashboard into your hands a couple of weeks later, just after the new year. That is a little bit more of a rubbery deadline or a rubbery date. It might end up pushing out a few more days there. Just there's a lot of, as you can imagine, over the holidays period, a bunch of different personnel kind of coming and going. And we're also working really hard as a team on the invoicing upgrade and really hoping to have these improvements in your hands by the end of January. So that's what we've got there.